Hi, thanks for joining this webinar called Food for Thoughts. My name is Julia Wilkins from Health New England and I'm part of the health management team. And in this webinar, we're going to discuss how to keep the brain healthy by slowing down the aging process and also tools to keep our brain function running smoothly, especially with our diet, but other ways as well. The brain, as you can imagine, is really the focal point of all of our bodily functions, so it's really important to keep that part of the body free of disease and as efficiently as possible. So let me ask you a question. Do you think it's true or false that the effects of an aging brain are irreversible? Well, the answer is false. And if you're surprised by that answer, you'll be happy to know that brains can actually repair themselves due to a thing called neuroplasticity. Just like a baby learning their first steps, or a stroke victim regaining function, or someone changing careers later in life, we can always learn new tasks, and the brain never stops changing. New neuron connections are always forming, and the more we demand them to form, the more that they will. Even when the brain is damaged, it still has some capability to reorganize and to make new connections. Maybe old connections are dead, but we can learn new ways of doing things. Let's start with some brain anatomy so we can understand what the brain is really comprised of. There are four structures of the brain. There's the cerebrum, the cerebellum, the limbic system, and the brainstem. The cerebrum, also known as the central cortex, is the largest part of the brain with all four lobes, so it's pretty much a majority of the brain. It's responsible for thought. The cerebellum is also known as the little brain. You'll see that at the bottom of the brain. The limbic system is found inside the cerebrum, and it's known as the emotional brain. It contains the thalamus, which is the sensory part of the brain, hypothalamus, which is responsible for emotions, keeping your body in homeostasis, emotion, thirst, hunger, the circadian rhythm. It holds the amygdala, which is good for memory, emotion, and fear. And lastly, the hippocampus, which is where you learn and create memories. Lastly, the brainstem, which connects the brain to the spinal cord, is right under the limbic system and is responsible for maintaining really your life. Breathing, heartbeat, blood pressure, and so forth. This brainstem is made up of what's called midbrain, pons, and medulla. Some of those terms might seem familiar to you, so now you know where they're found in the brain. There are also four lobes of the brain. There's the frontal, parietal, occipital, and temporal. They all have different purposes, and these are all found in what we talked about of the cerebrum. The frontal lobe is what you can assume the front of the brain, and this helps with problem solving, judgment, reasoning, and motor function. The parietal section in the middle tackles sensory information, sensation. It determines your handwriting and body position. The temporal or bottom section, where the hippocampus lives, like I said, has to do with memory, language skills, and hearing. And the occipital, which is way in the back, processes what we see visually. So hearing all those functions of the brain, and there's many, many more, you can understand why it's so important for that organ in our body to maintain its integrity and be able to run properly. Therefore, it's really important to have good brain health. The brain is where we create memories, we get creative, develop logic, we reason, communicate, express our moods, feel emotions, and it's really who we are. Everything in our brain affects our daily function and work performance. But we have the power to manage brain health and prevent decline. Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, they're all on the rise, but our lifestyle and environment can actually affect the brain in a positive way, so we need to do what we can to help it not turn into a decline. So what are some ways that we can do that? Well, there are things that we should avoid, and there are things that we might need to add into our daily routine. Some of the things you may want to avoid are prescription medication. Now, you definitely want to talk to your doctor before you start or get off of any medications, but some medications can cause side effects that interfere with our thought process, and they deplete vitamin absorption, crucial for brain function. So if you feel that you're on a medication that might be affecting your brain function, please talk to your doctor and see what you can do about that. Also, simple carbohydrates spike the glucose levels. So when we consume a white carbohydrate, let's say a white bagel, our glucose levels really go up, and the brain operates best when the blood sugar levels are stable. So when they're really high and then they drop really low, our brain is not in the primary condition to function properly. The dips and the highs decrease alertness. Studies show diets high in sugar cause inflammation, oxidative stress, which is when the body cannot get rid of free radicals that cause aging and fight antioxidants, and impaired brain function. Low-fat diets used to sound like a good thing, but studies have shown over the years that actually we want to include some fats into our diet. The brain actually functions on healthy fats, and 60%, so over half of the brain, is made from fats, DHA, and omega-3 fats. Now the tricky part is that DHA and omega-3s must be consumed because our body does not create them. So it's important to have those fats in our diet. These are things like fish, almonds, avocados, olive oil, etc. Another part of your diet that you should watch is your sodium intake. Sodium can cause hypertension, which is high blood pressure, and what this can do is restrict blood flow to the brain. Therefore, you're not getting as much oxygen or nutrients to the brain. And processed foods can have all of the above. They might be comprised of simple carbohydrates, say that they're low in fat, so they appeal to you, have high sodium levels, and so forth. So in general, try to stay away from processed foods. When your body is feeling high levels of stress, it can cause long-term brain changes that increase the chance of mental illness. I mentioned we can do positive things to slow the decline of the brain. We can also do negative things that really speed aging in the brain, and high levels of stress is one of those things. Stress retards the creation of new cells. When I talked about at the beginning that we can repair and reverse the signs of aging, our brain needs to make new connections. When we have high levels of stress, these connections can't be made. Lastly, smoking is something that you want to avoid as well. Smoking, again, just like high blood pressure, can restrict the blood flow and the oxygen to the brain. So positive things that you can do is first understand the brain and gut connection. And we'll talk more in detail about this in a minute. Second, you can get exercise. Exercise has proven to increase your IQ, intelligence, perception, motivation, problem-solving skills, and memory. It boosts neurogenesis, so this is the creation of new cells. When we get adequate amounts of sleep, the neurochemicals or the molecules of the brain are manufactured. The brain really uses time to rest, to regenerate itself, to wipe out all of the old toxins, and to regenerate new cells. When we get less sleep than we need, our brain hasn't had proper time to fully complete that process. You heard of use it or lose it. You want to use the brain because the brain is designed to be challenged and stimulated to create those new neural pathways. Learn something new. Pay attention to details of a common task you might do every day. Be mindful, and also stay socially connected. Those are some tips to keep your brain stimulated. And lastly, diet, which we will talk about most in this webinar, is really important as well. We need to supply our body with nutrients instead of empty calories and really junk food. So we mentioned healthy fats, and these are important because the cells of the brain are surrounded by fat and brain tissue. And really most of your brain is made up of fats, so we need to supply that brain with as much fats as we can. Like I said, omega-3s, DHA found in fish oil, those can help increase the flexible fats in the brain, and flexible fats encourage brain function, while saturated and trans fats are called still fats and can age the brain. We want to get quality protein to help get those nutrients in the body to the brain cells, again low in saturated fat. Look at things that have high antioxidant levels. Those are what fight off free radicals, which cause oxidative stress and result in aging and cognitive decline. And this is true of the whole body with antioxidants as well. Foods high in good vitamins and minerals help, especially B1 and B9, vitamin C, calcium, magnesium, and zinc. And lastly, It might be a good idea to take some supplements, especially an omega-3, a multivitamin, a probiotic, or those vitamins we just talked about. But again, check with your doctor to make sure that those supplements are right for you. So what is that brain and gut connection that I just mentioned? Well, the medical field is now discovering that there are links between digestion, mood, health, and the way that we think. The ENS, or the little brain, is actually found in your digestive system and is two thin layers of over 100 million nerves lining your gastrointestinal tract. It controls your digestion, breaking down food, blood flow, and nutrient absorption. It can communicate back to the brain, which is amazing to scientists recently. So those with disorders like IBS, constipation, diarrhea, bloating, and upset stomach aren't always caused by anxiety and depression. Mood disorders can actually cause gut issues. Issues in the ENS can signal the central nervous system and affect our mood. When we have good bacteria in our gut from a healthy diet or probiotics, it can fight inflammation that can cause chronic diseases caused by stress. It's inflammation and not consuming enough good bacteria that actually has even been linked to autism. Some physicians have even treated depression with probiotics to improve mental well-being. So it's really important to get recommended amounts of healthy fats and avoid those processed foods, because not only are we feeding our brain, but we're also feeding our gut that talks to the brain. It can affect so many things, especially our mood, which then in return affects if we exercise or have any other healthy habits. So as we've learned so far, a great brain diet, if you want to call it, is one with lots of produce, quality protein, and healthy fats. I'm not recommending a certain diet for you, but the foods found that nourish the brain can commonly be found in what's called the Mediterranean diet. The Journal of American Geriatric Society says that eating foods in the Mediterranean diet can lower risk for memory issues in older adults. Processed, white, fried, and sugary foods are rarely eaten when people follow this diet. You may hear some of the suggestions that we're about to talk about before, but the Mediterranean diet is a little bit more on the stricter side because it's really meant to help with increasing your health and reducing chronic risks of diseases. So it can lower your risk of heart disease, it can lower your risk of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, and so you really want to pack your diet full of plant-based foods, so a lot of fruits and vegetables, whole grains instead of white, get those lean cuts of meat and fish, legumes or beans, and then olive oils and nuts. So the first food we'll talk about is meats. With meats, you really want to limit the red meats and really fill your diet with the fish and the lean poultry like chicken, turkey, and so forth. Keep portions small no matter what the meat is, and then always avoid the processed meats, things like sausage, bacon, hot dogs, and high-fat meats. So some ideas are to really focus on chicken, duck, turkey, and other poultry. Remember, these versions don't mean fried versions, they mean grilled, baked, broiled, or so forth. Next is fish, and this is where you want your main source of protein to be. Because there are worries about mercury levels and so forth, we recommend that you have fish about 2 times per week. This is where you're going to get that good source of omega-3 that your brain needs that your body can't produce. Ideas are salmon, sardines, trout, tuna, mackerel, and shrimp. These things are especially high in omega-3s and DHA, but other seafood is good for you as well. Next are fats. We've talked about healthy fats a lot. You want to switch out those higher fat items with skim fat-free or low-fat versions. So you might only have to switch out some of your dairy. You also want to add in some healthy fats that you might not have already in your diet. And these are some examples: avocado, olive oil, olives, seeds and nuts, walnuts, flax seeds, and soybeans are all great examples. And again, if you feel like you don't like some of these foods or you can't really incorporate them into your diet, talk to your doctor about maybe taking an omega-3 supplement. Fruits and vegetables. The Mediterranean diet suggests a lot of fruits and vegetables, and you can see that as they really aim for about 10 servings per day. Any fruit and vegetable really has its benefits with its specific vitamins and minerals. It can really tell that how vibrant the fruit or vegetable color is, that it'll be higher in vitamins and minerals, and something that you might want to pick for your meals in that coming week when you're going grocery shopping. These on the list here are some produce that are really high in antioxidants, and again, that's what fights off the aging process in the brain. So berries, plums, oranges, grapes, any type of green, whether it's romaine, spinach, kale, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, onions, and eggplant. Add this produce to anything. Make sure that you include a big salad once a day into your menu. Stuff them into omelets in the morning, sandwiches in the afternoon, and maybe roast some for the evening. Next are whole grains. So usually we recommend to have about half of your grains to be whole. The Mediterranean diet recommends that you switch all your white to whole grain, because whole grains have a lot of vitamin B that reduces inflammation in the brain. Next are eggs, and the great thing about eggs is they're really quality protein. You can even buy some with omega-3s in them, and they're inexpensive. Another benefit is that they increase HDL, which is the good type of cholesterol. And this is good news because many of us worry about eating eggs with the cholesterol levels, but with those HDL levels, it shows that eggs can increase that good cholesterol, which helps clear up bad cholesterol as well. Eggs have vitamins B, D, and E, as well as choline. These vitamins and minerals can improve your memory and the communication between brain cells. They also help break down methane, which promotes happy hormones. So there's another gut-brain connection. Some beverages to really incorporate into your diet that are high in antioxidants, decrease the risk of dementia, and improve your memory are tea and coffee. Actually, the beneficial ingredient in these two things is the caffeine. Many of us reap the benefit of caffeine found in coffee and tea as a brain booster, but it can also fight depression. One 5-year study showed that those who drank coffee had lower rates of depression. And in 2013, a Chinese study found that 21% of those who drank tea at least 1 to 5 days a week and 41% of those who drank daily had a smaller risk for depression. Not only does caffeine help lower depression, but it also can reduce your risk of a stroke. Lastly, we'll talk about spices. We mentioned before that you want to have a lower sodium diet, so that is the thought of not seasoning all your food with salt. You can also use some spices. Spices are important because they're high in antioxidants. Specifically, ginger, cinnamon, and turmeric have those high antioxidant levels. Other examples are garlic, pepper, basil, mint, rosemary, sage, and nutmeg. Turmeric specifically can help sweep away the plaque in the brain while we sleep that contribute to Alzheimer's. So here's an example day of what to eat based on what we just talked about. You do not have to follow this meal plan. But for example, breakfast, we're making sure that we get some healthy fats and antioxidants with those whole grains. Lunch, you're getting that high quality protein, whether it's hummus or grilled chicken, and again, adding some whole wheats and vegetables. During dinner time, you're getting that fish, vegetables, nuts, and fruits, and seasoning with those spices instead of a lot of salt. Our challenge for you is to see if your brain retained the information that we just talked about, and therefore helping you to make those changes in your life. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at healthydirections@hne.com. The brain affects everything that we do every day, whether it's our thoughts, our bodily movements, emotions, or just how we get through our day. Keeping this organ running smoothly, healthy, and free of disease is really the pinnacle of healthy aging. We hope this webinar helped you make some healthy changes so that you can reverse or maintain brain function that you currently have. Thank you for listening and have a great day.